Hello and welcome to MKB Life Coach podcast. And today we're very lucky to have Joanne Huntsman, who's going to talk to us about health kinesiology. It's an alternative medicine and one that helped me many years ago when I was really struggling with grief and I was feeling unwell all the time. And so I just wanted to bring this to you so you can listen to it and understand a bit more about it. And then if you decide you'd like to try it, I will put all of Joe's details in the information of the podcast. So if you need to send me any emails, please do so at info@mkblifecoach.com, or you can join my Facebook group, which is MKB Life Coach Support Group. And my website is www.lifecoach.com. And today we have got Joanne Huntsman, and she's going to tell us all about kinesiology and how it works and what she does and all the types of things that are beneficial for it. So Jo, it's over to you, please.
Hello, Maxine. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you about this lovely stuff. So yes, as you say, so my initial training was in kinesiology, a particular brand called health kinesiology. There are probably 4 or 5 different sorts out there. And I came across this, as many people do, in my darkest hour. I was very, very low and depressed, in fact, grieving without realizing that that was the problem that I had. And my daughter was very, very poorly with a condition that meant that her face kept swelling and the skin breaking on it, and to the point where it was sort of cracked and open. And we didn't really manage to get a diagnosis for a long time, although people were saying things like infected eczema or acne or just things that it patently wasn't really. But we kept going to the regular doctors for as long as we could. And then I started to kind of Google a lot and found different creams and different practitioners, and you'll hear the odd squeak on your podcast because we've got Maps with us.
I joined you.
Maps the cockador, who thinks this is all about her, I'm sure. So I kind of ran out of options, and then one night on another desperate Google, after another couple of weeks of Katie not being able to go out at all, really. This is when she was 15 and obviously very self-conscious about how she looked. Somebody in their description of their work said they'd had a successful outcome with this modality I'd never heard of, kinesiology, and described their client, and it sounded very much like Katie. So, and amazingly, it was 30 miles away. So we got to the point where we would probably have gone anywhere in the world, but there she was down the road. So I decided to go and have a session myself, nominally to check out that it wasn't anything too weird for my daughter, who had been to all sorts of people by that time. And it was probably the most unusual therapy I've ever had, because basically it comprises someone using your arm to muscle test and question your energy system and body as to what it needs in order to become healthy. And I'd never come across anything like it before. I had my session and came out feeling like I'd had a rucksack of rocks taken off my back, and just a spring in my step for the first time in a long, long, long time. I came back and told my daughter about it and said, it's a pretty wacky one, but you want to have a go? And she did. And within 2 weeks, she was completely clear of all the symptoms that had bothered her for, it must have been sort of 8 or 9 months. It was pretty remarkable, really. And in that same instant, I decided I have to train. I just have to be able to do this for other people.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my entry point to it. So, very much like yourself, your system of helping people who are bereaved is through your own personal experience. And my journey to kinesiology is very much through the difficulties I was having probably 12 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because obviously you put me in touch with somebody to go and have some kinesiology afterwards. I think it was probably a couple of years after I'd lost Liz. So I can, and I understand how you're saying about a load of rocks being lifted off, because exactly, I felt like that totally. It is a very strange thing, and I cannot explain to somebody what it is really. But you're completely right, and I think it's. Well, I talked for must have been about 2 or 3 hours and cried an awful lot, but I walked out of there and I felt a totally different person and able to cope with things.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it's very different to talking therapy in that way, I think, because I'd had counselling around that time, and to be honest, I didn't ever have any relief from a counselling session. I think there's a lot to be said for talking therapies, but I think short ones are probably not terribly beneficial for me. I can imagine a process taking a couple of years, and you probably would find out an awful lot about yourself and benefit from that. But in kinesiology, what the system is doing, that while you are talking, the practitioner will be holding particular acupressure points or on your body, and actually releasing the energy blocks that have been caused by the buildup of emotion. So it really is kind of like opening a tap.
Yeah,
it's only done at the rate and pace and time that your body asks for it, because I mean, one of my favorite things about it is that it's completely consensual. So when I meet a client, they come to me with a particular set of circumstances. We ask permission to work. We ask how the body would like to resolve this particular problem, what's causing these symptoms to appear, what order would they like them doing in, over how many sessions, and using what tools and methods. So there's no compulsion, there's nothing going on that the body isn't actually crying out to do. And I think that's really important, because sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to go on a detox diet, which is fantastic in theory, but if your organs haven't been prepared for that, the organs of detoxification, which are generally very overloaded in the way that we live, you can actually make things an awful lot worse or not get any better, and that's quite distressing when you're trying to deal with a condition that is troubling to you. Just another failure is pretty rotten, really. So I love the fact that it goes at the exact pace, the exact order, and using the tools that are needed.
Yeah, that's good.
So that was one of the attractions of it.
And because you also help animals as well, don't you? Through
Yes, I do.
Yes,
I do. Partly because we have animals here, as you know. We've got dog and chickens and a hedgehog, and I think I've worked with them all, and our sheep when we had them, and I work with the animals next door, and a lot of my clients have horses right out in the country here, and a lot of horse people seem to be very open to the idea of energy medicine, which is what this is. I'm not quite sure how or why, but I think it's been part of the traditional scene for a long time, that there was always somebody in the horse, people in the sort of horsey group that people who knew how to do a bit of horse whispering and sort out what was wrong with the horse. So they're quite open to it. Maybe that's why they come and see me for themselves as well.
Yeah.
So I quite often work with owner and horse, which is fantastic. And whole families when I'm very lucky, because that works really well as well.
That's really good.
Yes, so, and houses.
And houses.
And I work with houses now, yes.
Oh, right.
So I had a couple of clients who were not getting well, and as you know me, I'm like a dog with a bone. If somebody isn't responding, I like to go back and find out what is the cause of the symptom. I suppose that's one of the principal differences between us and the modern medical system, is that we look for the cause rather than try and turn off the symptom. Yeah. So if your car is faulty, we're not looking to cut that wire that's got a warning light on it. We go, oh, look, it's all right, the light's gone out now. Yeah. We're really got the bonnet up, and we're testing and listening and finding, well, why is that causing? Why does that become a good idea for the body? Because the body's always doing its best. Can't remember what I was saying now. Oh, so a couple of people were not responding as I hoped, and so I have worked with the system of an incredible guy called Adrian Incledon Weber, who has a fantastic book called Heal Your Home.
Oh, right.
I'll send you a link for it so you
Yeah.
can put it on if anybody thinks that their house might be causing sickness or tensions. And he's an estate agent, or was an estate agent down in the southwest, and he kept noticing he was selling the same house every couple of years, and the people in it were always getting divorced, and they were happy when they moved in, and so he started to investigate the sort of notion of sick houses and the effect of geopathic stress and subtle energy on people, and has also worked out a system of how to rebalance and clear homes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right the way from ghosts down to ley lines and areas of maybe emotional imbalances where there has been something disturbing happening in the house. So that's been fantastic. So, and that was the case with this client. It was like seeing my knitting pulled out. I would do a session for her. They felt a lot better, went home. And then 2 days later, she'd ring up and go, no, the rash is back. And so I'm like, right, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. So I asked if she would let me examine the house. And it was one of my early sort of training sessions for myself. And discovered all sorts, but some particularly troublesome areas in the home. There's no way you would know without testing. Cleared it, and then I checked to see if I had to redo any of her healing, but in fact I didn't, which I was surprised by. I thought I'd have to kind of start again. And by the end of the week, she rang and said, no, it's all clear, and the house feels completely different now that I walk into it.
Wow.
I think it's something that a lot of people have a sense of. I mean, some places feel welcoming and warm, and you feel kind of better for being in them, and there's some places that aren't, and sometimes that's because you associate it with people or events, but there are just some places and houses that you think, doesn't matter what I would do to this, it just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah,
you're probably right. Well, I think we did used to have a very strong sense of it, but we probably override a bit now. So yes, people, animals, houses, nothing else, I don't think.
Yet. That's really good. So, and obviously you can do everything over Zoom as well. It hasn't got to be a face-to-face.
No, remarkably, it can be done remotely. I remember when I was training, and my tutor said, of course, you don't need the people to be with you when you're working, and somewhat blew my mind, along with a lot of the other information that I was being given, because it was just such a new system to me. And so, no, I am able to work remotely with people. And I've been doing some research recently and quite a lot of reading on why that's the case. And I think the nearest we can say is it's in the world of quantum physics, there's something called quantum entanglement, which means that once you've had a connection with someone, no matter how far away you are, that connection can remain energetically. Yeah. And although it's quite a big leap of faith when you first do it and first receive it, I think the results speak for themselves. And in fact, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever whether somebody's with me or not.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. So it means that I can work for people kind of wherever they are in the world. I don't think I've worked for anybody outside the UK. But I've worked for 2 or 3 people actually while they've been in hospital to support their healing with whatever they're going through. And so they don't have to wait and come out and try and get an appointment. And of course, while we weren't able to meet up in person, I was able to carry on and do the work that I was doing.
Well, I know I can definitely vouch, because I mean, you've done different things for me over the last few years while you've been trained, or you'll contact me and say something's not quite right, and you think, oh, all right, and then unremarkably you feel fantastic after a few days and taken some herbal tablets or some whatever you've had.
Yeah, whatever comes up, which is good.
Which is really
good. Along with the main body of work that I do during a session, there's a section at the end which I would say, is there anything that would benefit the client to take for themselves? And I'm obviously not allowed to prescribe, that's a medical thing, but the body kind of advises you itself, which is gorgeous. It says, if you know it's from your own energy system and body, and said, I would like 5 days of vitamin D, please.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is it's really good for testing things like supplements, because we can waste an awful lot of time and money on things that aren't really doing us any good.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can be a little bit more precise, you just seem to enhance the healing that you're doing, but also it's kind of less hit and miss. You haven't got to use that trial and error method.
That's it.
With kinesiology, you don't normally take, you'll know, you don't normally take things for more than 4 or 5 days.
No,
very rarely would say a week of something. It's normally 5, and that's enough just for the body to be rebalanced and to be able to uptake the vitamin or minerals. Quite often magnesium we use a lot.
Yeah, it's like kickstarting the body again, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's very subtle, we don't have to sort of whack it around the head with a great, and we're terrible for, well, if that a little bit works, I'll have a tablespoonful. But actually, anybody who's had homeopathy, for instance, the tinier the amount, the more powerful it is. But it's just the way I think, if that tasted nice, I'll have another slice. And even that doesn't work, because
definitely not
overloaded. And of course, my other big love of my life is Himalayan crystal salt.
Oh yes,
comes up so often and in so many different forms. I very rarely work with an animal that somewhere during the session it doesn't say give a 1/4 of a teaspoon of Himalayan crystal salt in their water. So if your animal's just generally off colour, I would just try that anyway. It's certainly not going to harm them.
That's a good idea.
And other times you have baths with particular number of handfuls in them in certain sequence. Other things have come up, like I have quite a very heavy Himalayan salt filled blanket that I use as part of the session.
Yeah,
which is remarkably effective for people with things like asthma and bronchitis. It seems to really enable the work to get deep into the cells. Which is not really that surprising, because in Europe people go and sit in beautiful salt caves to get well, don't they, in Poland and Germany. Yeah, but it's an extension of that. I don't think there's too many others, but it does come up quite a lot.
It is good, and I know when I've been to health spas and everything, they usually have a salt room that you can go and sit in and everything, and you've got salt lamps and things like that, and it does make a huge difference. I'm
a big fan of salt lamp.
Yes, definitely.
I've got one that plugs into my computer. So
I've just got one of those to go on the boat.
Oh, lovely! It's so dainty.
USB, it has to be USB.
It does just as much good. It's just helps your body. If anybody's got sort of allergies or asthma, hay fever, to have one of those on the go where they sit is beautiful. And also, I think it helps a little bit with electromagnetic frequency, which is always good,
especially with all the electrics we use and everything these days.
Oh, totally,
yeah, that's brilliant. That's really good. So thanks ever so much for giving us an insight. And what I'll do is I'll put all your details in the description, so that people, if they want to know any more information, they can get hold of you and
of course, very well,
give it a go, because it is definitely worth having. So thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to tune in soon, and if you've really enjoyed it, please give us some feedback. It would be really useful. And if you've got any other topics that you'd like bringing up on my podcast, then drop me an email, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. And if you could review it, it would be amazing. Thanks ever so much.